Hey, it's Coach Taylor from SmarterTeamTraining.com. I'm going to tell you that I'm excited to have a conversation with a man named Kevin Boyle, who's on the phone with me now. He actually stepped out of the facility. He's actually in his car, for those who are always interested in what we're doing when we're actually having these conversations. Kevin's a guy that I reach out to fairly regularly, and I have no problem being very open with everybody on the show here. I try to probably talk to him most about some of the things that we're implementing, or from a business aspect, or from a application type of thing, scaling. How do you work with individuals or teams and that type of thing? And definitely from the education side, I'm very lucky to come in and help educate his staff and do some things with their program, and as well as them educating me on things. Man, you're learning all the time, both ways, when we're doing things. So, Kevin, man, I'm excited to have you on the phone, man. I know we've been waiting to have this interview and this conversation for a long time, and it's finally that we finally get on or coordinated our schedule to finally get you on the show, my man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really honored to be here. I love the content that you provide for us in person, and I love the podcast. I spend a lot of time in my car. You know, like you said, right now I'm just trying to get out of the chaos, so we have some quiet space to talk. But you know, I use the podcast regularly because I'm traveling from site to site, and it's something to listen to with some great content. So very happy to be here.
Kevin, man, we've known each other for a while now, and I feel like I know you well enough to be able to speak on your behalf, but I want the listeners to actually get a chance to know who you are, not necessarily from the chronological history of the things that you've accomplished and the people you've got a chance to work with, but more from the passionate side of the person who you are, man. I know you've got a big-time heart for the people you get a chance to work with, not only as employees, but as clients and athletes, et cetera, and I want you to share that here if you wouldn't mind. Can you tell me a little bit about where your passion comes for this field as someone who runs a business, and for the side of it that gets a chance to impact others?
Yeah, I'll start with a couple of the quick bullet points and then get to the fun stuff. Right now, I am the director for the Explosive Performance Athlete Training Program, which is a division of Sport and Health. It's owned by the Sport and Health Clubs, which is a large chain on the East Coast, one of the largest on the East Coast. And I'm also an assistant coach for the Washington Spirit. But to answer your question, you know, what my passion is really helping people, and people say that all the time, getting into the industry. But what I mean by that in terms of our business is, if I need to make our staff better. I need to take an intern and have them come in and become a full-time trainer. If I can't do that, I failed that intern. If I can't take that full-time trainer and make them a site director, then I failed that person, and so on up the line. And we have several cases where, and I really pride myself that we have a lot of people that have worked really hard, implemented what we've taught them, and, you know, are really drinking the Kool-Aid, so to speak. And they've been able to be promoted inside the company and create opportunities for themselves within the company, but also to be promoted to amazing opportunities outside of the company. And I don't look at that as a loss for us. If I can improve every trainer that we work with and have them go do something greater than what we could provide for them here, then that's a win for me and a win for them. And the same thing with our athletes, and that's the obvious one, is, you know, if I can take an athlete who couldn't make their team and have them become a starter or a star player or get a scholarship, that's an amazing experience to be part of that, and that hard work for that athlete and being an educator for that athlete. That's definitely where my passion comes from, is helping people to transform themselves from where they are now to where they could be.
I know you're very proactive and have a huge staff, and you're just a very big component of what you got going on is education. How long or how often does your staff participate in regular professional development training, and then how do you kind of structure it into a busy week?
I'm going to start with a quote from Mike Boyle over at MBSC, who's one of my mentors. No relation. My uncle is actually named Mike Boyle, but it's not the same guy. But Mike said, you know, if you spend an hour every day educating yourself from the research that's available to you, or from top minds in the industry, you'll probably be the smartest person in this industry. And I think that's a really great way to frame it and say, you know, this is a manageable task. And so where we start from is kind of that mindset of, you know what, do something every day. We provide a lot of content, and we have other people in the company that are very passionate about this, and they help me providing content, because it does, as you know, it does take a lot of time. You know, even setting up for this call for yourself takes a lot of time. Setting up for an education takes, if it's an hour long, it might take me 4 or 5 hours. But we're dedicated to it, and honestly, it's a very fun part of this. is taking some complex concepts, trying to simplify them and make it absorbable for everyone. And the way we structure it is we do kind of an on-site, site-specific education once a week, at least once a week. We do a bigger event for multi-site, and we have 14 locations, so it's hard to get everyone together, but we make an effort to do that at least once a month. And then we have several outside speakers. We'll have them come in and do, either a webinar or come to our location, one of our locations, and run a hands-on clinic. And lastly, once a year we do a mentorship, which is usually somewhere between 3-4 days and a week, where we pick whoever we think is doing things the best in the country and that we want to learn from and kind of immerse ourselves in their education. We'll pick them and do a mentorship for our entire staff once a year. And those are really amazing events that really give us a lot of energy, and obviously the content changes what we're doing on a daily basis and makes us more efficient and better. We get a better result for our athletes. So education is something that I spend a little bit of time every day, either for myself or figuring out a plan for our staff. And we have those weekly, monthly, and yearly things to just make sure that we're always moving forward. I talk about this all the time to new staff, but I don't say this lightly. I think that we provide more opportunities for our staff than anyone in the country. And it doesn't mean that we're better, because we're pulling in some of these places that I think are better than what we're doing now. But our company, our parent company, Sport and Health, supports us for that. They reimburse our staff for continuing education, and that's amazing. So there's a huge investment in education, and it's why we are where we are today, and it's why our staff is passionate about educating others. So it becomes this exponential thing where we learn from the best coaches, our coaches teach other coaches, and they're teaching their athletes.
I know you have many sites there. I know you got a bunch of site directors. I know you have over 60 trainers or coaches that work with you or work under you. My question, when you start dealing with a group of people that come from many different backgrounds and different personalities, I mean, how do you go about building relationships? I mean, how important is relationship building within your staff and within the community of your I don't want to say hierarchy of your program, but for the site directors all the way down? I mean, how do you do that from top to bottom, go about building relationships?
Yeah, at first it kind of starts with, getting buy-in from someone. And that's, that with training athletes, it's the same thing. If they don't believe in what they're doing, they're not going to work hard for you. And it's the same thing in business and in this industry. So, we have to find a way to get buy-in from these people. And I think what excites our trainers and kind of motivates them to work hard is knowing something that either the competition doesn't know, or that that their trainer, that their client didn't know, or a coach didn't know. Being able to educate others and kind of having the keys to success for that. I think that's what motivates them, and that feeds back to the education component we just talked about. But honestly, this question is something that it's what keeps me up at night. How do we in this world we're in, where we have these locations that are spread out over 60 square miles, how do we kind of feel like one family and one group? How do we work together as a cohesive unit? And we use technology sometimes to our advantage, where we'll do these webinars and conference calls, and we'll post video of different methods and techniques on our YouTube page. That's really just for our in-house staff to make them better, and as a resource for them. But we do all of those things, and at the end of the day, though, I think where we're able to kind of keep that passion going from our new trainers to our more seasoned veterans is our staff. We have so many great people that take all of these concepts and that have totally bought into what we're doing for our clients. And they're our leaders at these locations. I can't be everywhere at once, and I don't need to be. These are amazing fitness professionals. An example, you got to work with Aveda Stone this past weekend, and he set that whole event up with you, and it was just on his own. It wasn't something where I was spearheading it. It's just how he thinks. And we've got tons of those people in our program that we're blessed to have, who have learned in our program, developed in our program, and really believe in it, and they're the leaders at their site, so they can do a lot of this stuff on their own. And I really pride myself in that these people are very self-sufficient, and that I think going through our program and our company, because so much is required of them, not just as to giving out the best product possible, but they're also involved in the business end of things, in spreading that product. So they're very prepared to start a relationship, to educate someone, to provide a service that costs money and get paid for that, and then to deliver a world-class product in that service.
If you've done enough of these interviews, you'll find out that eventually that people start asking you about what are some mistakes that people have made along the way. And I want to kind of put a little twist on that, if you wouldn't mind. What are some successful traits of people who have gone on from your staff to become great within the organization of sport and health or explosive performance? I mean, what are some things when they come in as a mentorship program or a mentorship attendee, and they work their way up the chain in your business there? I mean, what are some things that are attributes or characteristics of just some of your successful trainers?
It's the same thing, I think, as it is for athletes. That they're kind of wide-eyed and hungry and willing to work, willing to learn, willing to change. I think a lot of our top people are really humble, that they always think that they could be better. And if you're confident enough to know that what you're doing is good and that you have some great ability, but that you're never going to be perfect and you're always going to strive to get better, I think you'll be successful in anything. And I think we have a ton of those people, and we've been blessed to come across them. It's some of those, I think when you talk about the traits we look for, I mean, we look for someone who's friendly, who smiles at people when they meet them, who has that kind of energy. That's huge, because this should be fun, right? I mean, whatever we're doing, whether it's training athletes or, if you're working in a cubicle somewhere or whatever you're doing, it should be fun somehow. And part of that interpersonal relationship is what makes it fun. A lot of our guys, gravitate to the STT people and yourself, Rob, because of your energy that you bring. So that's huge. Are they friendly? Do they smile? Are they willing to learn? Are they eager? Are they proactive? Are they trying to change the game? And we have a lot of those people. That's what we look for, is someone who's, hey, I want to do it better. I want to do it different. And that means that I'm gonna come correct, and I'm gonna work hard and figure out a plan to make it better. I'm not just gonna say, hey, I'm gonna change it, and I don't have a plan. I've done the research. I've done the work to figure out who the best person is to ask to make things better. And that's what a lot of our staff does. They're always coming to me with ideas. Hey, I want to learn from this person. Can we do a mentorship with them? Or like that example I gave from this weekend, our guys just coming up and people helping people like Rob Taylor always says, people helping people like this weekend and just kind of learning from each other. So we look for a lot of those things, and those are the people that are successful. No one's going to do it perfect the first time. No one's going to come in as a finished product for us, or I think anywhere in this industry. But the people that I've been most proud of are the ones that maybe they started the furthest behind, and maybe they weren't very sure of themselves and where they could be in this industry and what they could do, and if they could help an elite athlete, a professional athlete, or the best athlete in the world. And all of a sudden they're doing it. All of a sudden they're taking ownership. They're becoming a leader. They're becoming an expert because of their focus on education, and they feel fully confident taking a pro athlete that walks in off the street and delivering, like I said, a world-class product, something that athlete would expect to get anywhere from the top people in the industry.
I know that you cover a large area. I mean, you get 60 plus, maybe arguably 70 plus square miles that the Explosive Performance and Sport and Health covers. And I know you and I have talked several times about different marketing strategies for someone who runs a much smaller business or even somebody who runs a much larger entity. One thing that you and I have discussed is how we can give back to those that are in the community that we live in. And I think sometimes we forget that we're always trying to look for the next dollar or next business venture, but sometimes giving, you get more. And my question to you is, how important is it for you to give back to your community that you work and live in? And are there community outreach suggestions that you might have had or that have worked out well for you?
That's a great question. We have so many good people that we are blessed to work with. in our program that they're always thinking about things like that. How can I give back, and how can I be more a part of my community? And I think it starts first, and what we did first is education. We've done clinics, free clinics, thousands and thousands of them, just for the benefit of the attendees, of the coaches and the athletes, on things like ACL injury prevention, concussion awareness, and we actively seek out partnerships with people like MedStar and SCORE, and Children's National Medical Center, where they're working on traumatic brain injuries and concussion. And that's not something that we're doing here, but we're trying to see, okay, what can we do to make sure that we recognize and respond when a concussion happens, or from a strength coach perspective, what can we do to strengthen an athlete so that maybe they're at less of a risk. And so a lot of what we do in outreach is education on topics like that we're passionate about. Concussion is such a hot button topic, and ACLs are such a traumatic injury that are unfortunately common with field sport athletes. That those are two that I'm most passionate about, and that we probably do the most education on. And we bring people in, we bring speakers in, we bring experts in. Like we work with Dr. Nunziata from the Washington Redskins, and he'll come in and talk about the surgery and what happens with a knee and the structure of a knee. And we'll come in and talk about, all right, here's some biomechanics of how to not have that. If you have these proper mechanics, you are less likely to have an injury, or if you do this strength training, you'll be less likely to have an injury. So, that's one of the things we've been doing for a long time, and we're very passionate about, because it helps people. And one of the other things is, a few years ago, I think when we first started this company, because we're very much a grassroots company, we started from the first couple of clients. I had one awkward 10-year-old basketball player who was like 6 feet tall, in the Tysons Sport and Health. And that's kind of how we started this program. It's just from this one kid, and kind of built it from there. But during those early days, they were just thinking about, are we going to have a career in this industry? Can we make a business and earn a living? And very quickly it was, all right, this is working. How can we give back, and how can we do something more? And about 3 years ago, we started a local charity for homeless veterans in DC Metro. And we got a partner with Volunteers of America and Sport and Health to help us execute it. And every year we have this event. This past year we called it the Sweat for a Vet. And we had people come out and raise money for homeless veterans. And we as coaches and strength coaches, we're trying to fill these small gaps in performance, or in in kind of the mental aspect of this, and someone's confidence level. We're trying to fill those gaps and those small needs. And if you take a step back, and we're looking at, all right, a homeless veteran, someone who does not have a home, who's worried about where his next meal is, or about being warm enough in the winter. This is our most at-risk population. What a great population to do something for. So my advice to your, and I know I'm kind of going on a rant and rambling here, but my advice to your listeners is that just like the education piece I talked about, find time to do these things, whatever it is you're passionate about. All right. And for me, again, it was in education and outreach. It's those, the ACL and the concussion and things like that our athletes deal with and suffer through. And hopefully we can help them to avoid those as much as possible. But then, outside of this world, what are you very passionate about? You can pursue it. You can make a difference. You can make an impact. And so, we have people that were passionate about that on our staff that helped us as a group to make it happen and raise some money for these people. Hope that answers your question, Rob. I kind of went all over the place there, but it's very important to us to do that. And honestly, I don't like talking about marketing or sales, because we don't really sell. We go out and we educate people when we do events like that gain exposure for us, so they can know that, this is a group of people that cares about whatever it is, cares about athletic performance, but cares about the people in our community.
Again, I'll be honest with the listeners here. I respect Kevin for his administrative, executive mind, the ability to run a business and do those other entities. but I never forget that he's also a coach. He actually gets on the field with us, and he's also a very good resource for me when we have questions, and it's his staff as well. I'm lumping you, Kevin, as one entity, as you represent many people that work with you. But one question, as we're getting closer here to combine season, I know you love talking about combine prep and actually training kids and training athletes and training people just to become better. Mike, I want to start with the conversation about combines, and I know you guys do a great job working with combine athletes. How long should a football player spend preparing for the combine, and then how much time do you spend focusing on teaching each aspect of the evaluation?
It really depends on so many factors as far as how long. And I'll give you an example. A lot depends on the athlete. When there's a story that I'll go back to from Dennis Logan told this to us from Exos and Athletes Performance. Just talking about Adrian Peterson when he came in to prepare for the draft. He was one of the best athletes in college at the time, and he came in and did his pre-test, and he ran like a 4.3, 4.4, 40. And, their job changed right there. If the combine was that day, he would have been one of the top scorers or the top two for all running backs, and their job is done. So a guy like that, one day. and their job, they realized at that time was, and they were humble enough to realize that, let's just make sure he gets to the combine healthy, and let's not try to make any huge changes in him, because anybody who's watched Adrian Peterson run, it knows that he doesn't run pretty. He doesn't run like a track athlete or a sprinter, but he is fast. He's an amazing athlete. So when you look at that, it really depends on the athlete and where they're coming in at and what your time frame is. A lot of those college athletes, you get like 6 weeks to prepare them, and really you're just fixing things. Again, you're making sure that they don't have muscle imbalances that are going to make them pull a muscle in the 40 so they can't do the pro agility or something else. You're making sure, again, that they get there healthy and that they get there with some confidence, right? And I can do that in a few weeks. I can make sure that someone knows how to get in their stance and get out of their stance. I had a coach at the youth level that I used to work with. He'd always say that about the 3-point stance, or a 4-point stance. Either he'd say, if you can't get into it, you can't get out of it. So, same thing goes for setting up someone for a good pro agility or a good 40. Do they understand how they should start? As far as really developing an athlete, ideal scenario is that we could take them through a full program, multiple days a week, covering speed and strength and every aspect, take over their athletic lives, so to speak. And that we'd have 8 to 12 weeks to prepare. So I hope that answers the question. It really depends on the athlete and your program. And we're a lot of times in this industry, we're at the mercy of outside factors. For college athletes coming in, it's if they're on a great team and they just played the national championship that we had last night, then they've got less time to prepare for the combine. But hopefully they're just a better athlete that they don't need as much time because they're on that championship team. We focus. I think combine prep is really important, no matter what sport. If you're not preparing for a combine, I think it's important because it's simplifying movement skills and speed training to what it needs to be. Linear speed and the 40-yard dash, to training your athletes like they're track athletes. And I'll give you an example there. You look at a soccer player, right? And the two components of speed that I'm really looking to change in stride length and ground contact time. So if I'm trying to change those things, what is a soccer player already probably pretty amazing at? Probably have really low ground contact time, probably have really quick feet. But any coach that's ever worked with a soccer player in season or otherwise, it just gets worse in season when they're playing a lot, knows that they're usually not the most flexible athletes in the world. And they tend to run, by nature of their sport and having to dribble a ball, they tend to run with short, choppy strides. So in that case, I'm looking at now performance and linear speed from like a combine prep and 40-yard dash standpoint. I want them eating up ground when they run. I want them taking huge, powerful strides. So I have to improve their flexibility. I have to teach them some running mechanics that maybe they don't use to their advantage. In a 40, if I'm looking to improve someone's performance and teaching them, stance and start, I'm also looking at their total number of steps, right? Can they complete a 4-yard dash in 17 to 19 steps? Because if they can't do that and they're taking 23, 24 steps, they're not going to run an elite time. And if that speaks to my point from before, is just simplifying things and saying, how do I take combine prep and make it work for another sport and another athlete and fill that athlete's gap? Same thing for pro agility. Pro agility is the gold standard in change of direction as far as testing. All right, and I think one of the mistakes that our company made early on, and that I made all the time as a coach, would be we would test the pro agility, we would test vertical jump and linear speed and stuff, and then we would go train them for agility with a whole bunch of random agility drills. You know, we'd take them through hurdle stuff, we'd take them through ladders, they would do cutting exercises in different patterns, and it was great for coordination and getting kids in shape. But then we'd go test them at the pro agility again at the end of training after 8 weeks or 12 weeks of training, and they basically would improve if they were kind of a lower level out of shape athlete. And our more elite athletes would improve less, and part of that is just they have less room to improve. If you run a 6.0 pro agility, you've got some room to improve there as opposed to like a 4.1 guy. But part of it was our training didn't match the test, and the test, if I'm starting with the simplification of it and the basics of it, you're trying to cover more ground in less steps as fast as possible. All right, so I need to have more power. I need to eat up ground in my steps. And so if I train my athletes for that, if I train in change of direction to have them explosively move and cover tons of ground versus just going through some coordination pattern through some hurdles, I'm probably going to get a lot better result on the field, and I'm going to get a better result in that test.
Hey, Kevin, man, I know you do a lot of things within the organization and outside of your organization there with sport and health and explosive performance. I know you're motivating a ton of people, and every time you and I get a chance to either be on the phone or meet in person, I feel like you're a genuine energy giver, my man. I feel like you're giving a ton of passion to others, whether they want it or not. What's one big motivational message or inspirational message for someone who's either entering the field as a trainer or even that athletes that maybe just be on the bubble that they're trying to actually crack into the team? I mean, I'll give you two options there to kind of, to dictate your own response. But, tell me a little bit about how you inspire people that are in and around you.
I'll start with kind of people, that are maybe going into the field and finding that motivation. I think it was easy for me and to not go too far in a tangent with my path, but I think it was easy because I started out as a lot of people do in this industry. I think you're either kind of like a skinny kid that became a better athlete by training, or you had an injury to overcome. And I kind of had both of those that motivated me. So I was kind of an underdog coming into college. In high school, I grew 10 inches and I was a 150-pound, 6'4" average athlete, to below average athlete, and weight training changed my physique and how I could move and how explosive I was. And I entered college as a 200-pound athlete that walked on to 2 Division I sports. So I had that kind of motivation from those trials and tribulations and kind of being an underdog and working hard to achieve something. And then I had the experience of going through a traumatic injury. I actually had 2 quote-unquote career-ending injuries, and those injuries kind of linked me together. First of all, they really humbled me, but then they also linked me together with some really amazing people who could see past that injury and had some great techniques to get over it and show me how to train differently and how to look at training differently and get the most out of my body. And it wasn't just what they were telling me and teaching me. It was how they were doing it and the mentorship that they showed. I'll give you an example. My college coach, I was a rower in college, and my coach, Dave Reichman, he took 2 hours when he got the job because he came onto the staff, I guess, when I was a junior or senior. And he took 2 hours with me just to talk about me and my career-ending back injury and whether I would row again, and just talking about experiences he'd had working with people with similar injuries, how we would approach overcoming it. And he really painted a picture of success. And it wasn't just that meeting. It was 100 meetings after that where he took the time out of his day to work with me, motivate me, and change his programming around what I was feeling. And he used a lot of science too. So he came prepared. We used polar heart rate monitors to train with. He used the Omega Wave system, and he always, no matter what the program was that he had in mind, he always related it back to, well, how do you feel? If you're in pain, then it's not working. And I worked with a guy named Mike Hope, who was a physical therapist, who, same thing, he was kind of a Stuart McGill disciple, and he turned me on to working with a guy like Stuart McGill, and that really changed the course of things for me with my back injuries. And so I think my advice then, what that means is, this is advice I always give to our interns or people that even ask to apply for a position with us, is start by having a mentor, right? Having someone who inspires you and educates you for sure, at least one, and build that network around you. Find your passion by taking time to pursue things that you think you want to do. When I came in the industry, and I always tell people that to prepare themselves for opportunities, I had a ton of real world experience beforehand in different environments, so I kind of knew what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be. As an example, I always tell people, you should work in a physical therapy clinic while you're in college. Go volunteer in one, do some experience credit there. It's a different environment. It's very much built to that medical side of things where you can see the rehab process and the structure to it and the science behind it. If you go work in a personal training clinic, in that one-on-one environment, it's also very different than coaching a group of 60 out on the field. The energy is different. How you relate to that person is different. How you get results might be different. If you work in a college weight room, very different as well. Those athletes have to be there. Coach told them to go there. So maybe I can be a little different with them than I can be with someone that I have to convince to come work with me. But it's also you get to see an athlete through an entire 9-month training program instead of I have to prepare someone in 6 weeks. So those are all very different environments, and I was blessed to be able to work in each one of those and as an assistant coach for a college team. And so I really knew kind of where I wanted to be coming into the industry. I was very motivated to pursue that. I wanted to kind of have my own ideas and work for myself a little bit. I wanted to just work with people that were good people. Going into the industry, a lot of times you think, I want to work with elite athletes because they're motivated. And Rob, you and I know that those do not go hand in hand. All right. Sometimes they do, and you end up with an amazing person, a motivated elite athlete who's the nicest person in the world. It's not always the case. You kind of judge people by if they're a nice person and they're fun to work with and they listen to what you're saying and you listen to them. That's just a great rhythm to have with someone, and it's very fun to work with that type of person. And so that's kind of what I was looking for, is just an environment where I could work with a wide variety of people, from adults and their general population to elite athletes, and just find people that wanted to work, wanted to get better, and wanted to be motivated and wanted to motivate me. So that was what I would recommend to the listeners out there that are kind of looking for some guidance, is go start, just try a bunch of different things. Right? If nothing else, you'll build your network, you'll gain some experience, but you'll figure out what you want to do and what direction you want to run in, and you'll doggedly pursue it.
Kevin, man, I know you're a busy guy, so I don't want to keep you on the phone too long. I know we've talked about a whole bunch of different topics, from the administrative side of things to actually a little bit of the practical, real world in the trenches type of applications here during the conversation. If somebody had a question about anything we discussed, and they wanted to reach out to you to find out more information about what you have going on, or maybe just to talk shop about training or life in general in the field, how can they go about reaching out to you, my man?
They can email me at kboyle, Boyle, at sportandhealth.com. They're also welcome to call me, and my number and my email are both on our website, which is sportandhealth.com/EP, as in explosive performance.
Again, Kevin, man, I appreciate you taking some time out of your day. It's an honor to call you a friend, my man. I'm very humbled every time you give me a call and say, hey, let's do something in collaboration. And again, reaching out to guys that your site directors and having to come up here to do educational events and share information, I think is outstanding. It's a really cool open relationship that you've created in there in the niche of that explosive performance family, and it's really cool to know the man on top is leading the way by example, putting his foot in the ground and just teaching by doing. And man, I look forward to keeping in touch here. I know this is going to be a launching pad again for us to do many more things down the road, and I'm looking forward to just keeping in touch, my man.
Thanks, Rob. I can't thank you enough, and great working with you as well.